When we think about learning a new language, our minds usually jump to grammar drills and endless vocabulary lists, right? But what if the biggest thing holding you back from speaking fluently isn't your brain power, but your feelings? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty amazing method called community language learning that puts that exact idea to the test.
And this is really the question at the heart of it all. This idea pretty much flips traditional education on its head. Instead of asking, how do I cram this information into someone's brain, it asks, how can I make a person feel secure enough that they want to learn? It's a total game changer of a perspective.
So just picture this for a second. It's not like any classroom you've ever been in, I guarantee it. You've got students sitting in a circle, but the teacher's on the outside, kind of just observing. And there are no textbooks anywhere, just a group of people and a tape recorder. So what on earth is going on here?
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain on this strange setup. The trick to understanding this classroom is to stop thinking about it as a place for top-down instruction and start seeing it as a space for, believe it or not, psychological support.
So here's the deal. Community language learning, or CLL for short, is what you'd call a humanistic approach. It gets that when you're trying to learn something new, especially as a grown-up, you're not just bringing your brain to the table. You're bringing all your baggage, right? Your fear of looking dumb, your anxieties, all of it. And CLL says, hey, we can't just ignore those feelings. We have to deal with them first.
To really get this, we've got to talk about the founder. His background is literally the key that unlocks this entire method, because his big idea didn't come from studying languages. It came from a completely different world.
So the guy who invented this, Charles A. Curran, he wasn't a linguist, he was a counselor. And he saw that the anxiety adults feel in a classroom isn't just a small problem. It's like a giant brick wall. It can completely stop learning in its tracks. When you're scared of making a mistake, you get defensive, and your brain just kind of shuts down the part that's supposed to be absorbing new stuff. So his solution? Bring the ideas of a counseling session into the classroom.
Now, when we say counselor, don't picture a therapist's office. Think of it more like a guide, or as Curran called it, a skillful understander. The teacher's main job isn't to talk at you or correct you. It's to listen, to understand where you're coming from, and to help you, the client, get over those emotional roadblocks to learning.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got your standard classroom. The teacher is the boss, and the students just sit there and absorb. But on the right, you see the CLL model. It's all about cooperation. The focus isn't just on your brain, it's on you as a whole person. And the goal is to build a little community of support, not to compete for who gets the best score.
Okay, so the theory is really interesting, but what does this actually look like day to day? Let's walk through what a typical session would feel like. This, right here, is the first and probably the most mind-blowing step. There's no textbook, there's no lesson plan. The actual content of the class comes from the students themselves. They get to talk about whatever is important or interesting to them in that exact moment.
This whole dance is designed to eliminate fear. A student whispers what they want to say, so there's zero pressure. The teacher stands behind them so they're not an intimidating figure at the front of the room and just quietly gives them the translation. Then, the student gets to repeat that perfectly formed sentence into a recorder, hearing their own voice nail the new language. And the best part? That conversation gets written on the board and it becomes the textbook for the day. Their words, their ideas.
So why this whole elaborate process? Well, it all circles back to that psychological foundation we were talking about. Every single one of these steps is designed with one thing, and one thing only in mind.
Security. That's it. That's the whole ball game. Everything. The teacher behind you, using your native language so you're not confused, letting you lead the conversation. It's all about creating this little bubble of psychological safety. Because when a learner finally stops feeling threatened, those defenses come down, and their brain can actually open up and learn.
Curran actually broke this down into 6 stages with this acronym SARRD. And look, it all starts with S for security. Once you feel secure, you can take a risk. That's A for aggression, which just means you assert yourself and try to speak. That frees you up to pay attention, and then later to reflect on what happened. And only after all that can you really retain the information and learn to discriminate between different sounds. Security is the key that unlocks that whole chain reaction.
Okay, so maybe you're not going to run out and join a CLL classroom tomorrow. But there are some seriously powerful techniques from this method that anyone can borrow to be a better teacher, or honestly, just a better learner. This first one seems so simple, but it's huge. Instead of just brushing past a student's frustration, you acknowledge it.
Just saying something like, I get that you felt confused by that last part, it validates their feelings. It shows them they've been heard. In modern psychology, we'd say this helps lower the affective filter, that emotional wall that stops us from taking in new info.
I absolutely love this concept. The idea is for the teacher to act like a patient, on-demand resource, a human computer. The student asks for a word, the teacher provides it. Calmly, clearly, and without any judgment, no matter how many times they ask. The teacher is there to serve the learner, not the other way around.
And this is the magic of the human computer. The learner is in the driver's seat. They decide what they want to practice, how many times they need to hear it, and when they feel like they've got it. The student controls the off switch. This is such a massive shift in the power dynamic, and it's all about building what we now call learner autonomy, that ability to take charge of your own learning, which is so critical for success.
And that brings us right back to the central challenge, doesn't it? What CLL tells us is that maybe the most important job of any teacher, or any boss, or any parent for that matter, isn't just to download information into people. It's to build a community of trust. Today, in the business world, we call this psychological safety, and it's the secret sauce in almost every high-performing team. So whether you're learning Spanish or learning a new skill for your job, the question is the same. How do we create spaces where people feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, and to really, truly learn?